You're watching France 24. It's that time of the day when we look through the world's press for you. Lana Kamore joins me now in the studio. Good morning, Lana. We're now into stories focusing on China, the aftermath, including a possible turnaround on Beijing's notorious one-child policy. Tell us more about that.
Yes, exactly. Well, in today's press, we found an interesting piece about how the trauma of the earthquake has actually called into question China's one-child policy. As you said, it's in Brazilian paper O Estado de Sao Paulo. Mothers have been marching with pictures of the only child that they lost in the quake, and the Chinese government has decided that parents who lost their only child will receive a certificate allowing them to have a second one. It's the first exception to the one-child policy since it came into force in the 70s, so important enough to be noted. We've got more pieces on the aftermath of the earthquake. In Algerian daily Al Watan, a commentary about another effect of the quake, and that was to strengthen national unity in China. The article notes that Beijing opted for a radical change of strategy here, going for transparency and immediate action rather than hiding the disaster like it had done for the 1976 earthquake, and that this had an immense positive impact on the people and on other countries as well, on China's image as a modern country with human leaders. Today in the China Daily we also have more on the aftermath, saying that the survivors are now threatened with flooding. Landslides have created dams in the rivers. This has created what we call quake lakes, and with heavy rains forecast it could spell disaster. The dams are going to be dynamited and hundreds of thousands of people are going to be evacuated, so more disaster could be in store. And finally, we've got some perspective, if we can call it that, from the Jerusalem Post, an Israeli paper, a piece saying that China's biggest health disaster is not the earthquake, but the air. The writer says that pollution causes 300,000 to 400,000 premature deaths every year.
Right, well, that's pretty gloomy reading. Yes. Moving over to Africa now, Lana. Jean-Pierre Bemba, the former vice president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, is still making headlines today. What do the press in Kinshasa make of it?
Well, Congolese paper Le Potentiel runs an interesting op-ed by a philosopher and theologian called Kamana, and he says he was actually shocked by the arrest, that it was a betrayal from Belgium and a proof of contempt towards Congo and its people, because some of them consider Bemba not only as a criminal but also as a well-established politician. And he also notes, interestingly, that Belgium never thought to arrest Mobutu despite his brutal dictatorship.
Right, so tit for tat going on there. More woe in Sudan, Lana, a risk of yet more crisis for the people there.
Yes, we see it in today's Gulf News. They say the country's witnessing the worst escalation of violence since the 2005 peace deal between government and rebels. Over the past week, we've had a lot of violence in the town of Abyei. It's caused 100,000 people to flee, and the paper cites UN officials and witnesses saying that the government is purposely trying to depopulate the area and cause the people to run away because the area is rich with oil. Same fears in the UK paper The Independent, whose correspondent gives a graphic description of the devastation in Abyei, and also in The Independent a very powerful opinion piece called A Crime That Tests Our Willingness to Stop Genocide. Imagine, the writer says, a town the size of Stirling with a population of 30,000. One moment it's there and the next it isn't. He says that there are over 300 UN peacekeepers in Abyei, that they have tanks and they have arms, and that it's a disgrace that the West stood by and watched what looks like organized genocide happen.
Now, very quickly, Lana, a bit of recycling, Olympic style. London hasn't even had its Olympics yet, but it's already planning what to do next.
Yes, well, a lighter story from The Guardian to finish this. We know London will be hosting the 2012 Olympics. Chicago is one of the favorites to host the 2016 Olympics. London has opened talks with the American city to see if it could ship its Olympic stadium to Chicago, where it would be rebuilt piece by piece for the games. So, as you said, a form of recycling and also a way for organizers to save money.
And what an incredible jigsaw that might be. Well, that was it for today's look at the papers. Stay tuned to France 24.